Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy. Happy New Year. We survived it. We got through 2021, and now we can look forward to different energies come 2022. Things are changing. It feels slow. Sometimes it feels really draggy, but things are definitely shifting. A certain kind of energy is dissipating and moving away, and a brighter sort of, I almost want to use the word holistic energy is coming forward. So this video is going to be a little bit extra long today because I'm going to do both Canada and the United States. We're going to do a general overview for 2022. Hang on, I'm going to go pick up that card. Hang on. Okay, the card that jumped out, believe it or not, was the Ten of Cups. So, that's kind of auspicious, right? I mean, that's a good start anyways. All right, so here we go. A couple things I just want to sort of touch base on broadly before I get started. So I was looking up some numbers, and apparently 50, this according, so I'm recording this on Monday, so this would have been, I don't know, Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there, date or stats. So the world has 58.3% of the world's population has been vaccinated. 29 million doses are administered every day. Sadly, in low-income countries, only 8.5% of their population has been vaccinated, and that, of course, causes a problem, right? I mean, we need to continue to get those vaccines out to them because that's where that's where the virus is allowed to sort of flourish, and then it migrates. Okay, in Canada, 83% of Canadians have one vaccination, and 77% of Canadians are fully vaccinated. And in the U.S., 73% of U.S. citizens are fully vaccinated, with 65% being fully vaccinated. So, we're getting there. I mean, I've long said that by the spring, this thing is going to dissipate a little bit. And so let's continue to stay safe, stay vigilant, and keep our fingers crossed, because it would be really nice if come, April, May, things just sort of, I don't know, discovered a new normal, found a new normal. Okay. So, yeah, let's start with, Canada. I am Canadian. So I'm looking for a general overview for 2022. If I say 2021 by mistake along somewhere in this video, don't worry about it. Spirit very often has a far better idea of what I'm talking about than I know what I'm talking about. For myself personally, I'm blaming it on brain freeze. It has been, most of you know I live in Alberta. It has been so cold here, like really, really cold. So just a little bit north of where I am, they had been hitting just the week around Christmas. They were hitting wind chill temperatures of minus 55 degrees Celsius. So that is approximately 50 degrees below zero in Fahrenheit. That's like really cold. So, and I mean, there were times that we here where I live, we're at like minus 35, minus 45 with wind chills. With very, very cold. But, this is the thing, right? In the summertime, we were dealing with temperatures that were in the, low to mid 30s Celsius, which is like, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So, go figure. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at Canada with our very diverse weather systems, shall we? Here we go. So we're going to look for an overview for Canada for 2022. Come on down. Okay, here we go. 2022 Canadian overview. 2022 Canadian overview. 2022 Canadian overview. Oh, okay, that's quite the cut. Okay, we've got the Ten of Pentacles here. Okay, so because the Liberals have been federally in government through the course of this pandemic, and, we just had an election, I think it was in the fall. Sorry, time blurs around these days, but he's going to be in office for another 3 or 4 years, whatever it is. So, what the King of Pentacles is talking about, it's talking about the money that was spent, all of the resources that were put into place to help us move through the pandemic. And it was, millions and billions and probably trillions of dollars. And, remember, we, I don't know, how many people do we have? Like 70 million people in all of Canada, something like that. So, even though geographically we're very large, in terms of population, we're very small. But in any case, so there was a lot of resources. What you're going to see as sort of next year's budget rolls around is you're going to see some real assessments going on. I saw an interesting statistic this morning that despite the pandemic and the financial hardships, et cetera, 1 out of every 3 Canadians is debt-free. So that's an interesting sort of number. Now I'm granted many of those may be, retired, and so they had a lot of their stuff put in place. I'm not sure, but it's not a horrible number. But as we move forward, there's going to be focused attention on, okay, now that we sort of got through the worst of it, how do we move forward? How do we make this come together in a way so that it holds the country together cohesively? And, you kind of got people on the same page because frankly, there was a lot of political push-pull that went on, not only in our country, but everywhere about the vaccines and should people take them and what are they, why are this like just nuts, okay? So there's sort of going to be here energetically, it very much feels like there's going to sort of try to be a bit more of a closing the gap and coming together. And, Canada has maintained some pretty harsh restrictions, when it comes to not only living in this country, but certainly entering this country. So, the government has done what the government needed to do, and it felt that it put everything, all its resources behind accomplishing it. And frankly, with, 70 or 83% of the Canadian population at least having 1 vaccination shot, and of course, don't forget, many of that, like probably about 75%, are waiting to get their boosters or having just had their booster. So, we are in some ways, we're in better shape as a country than some other places, but we are also smaller in population. And so that means there are more limited resources that have to really be stretched. So it feels as if the coming year is going to be a little bit more about focusing on budgeting, looking at what things can be, like moved forward. So one of the things that's popped into my head is like student loans. They have now been deferred. The interest on them has now been deferred, I think, until January of 2023. I am hearing that it would not be surprising if the Canadian government do not extend that through to 2025. That's the number I'm hearing in my head. So there's that. Now, don't forget the Nine of Cups popped out when I was shuffling, and now we have the Ten of Cups. So this is about ultimately coming together, a return to it's never going to be what was, but it's going to create a new normal. And that feels as if once this thing starts moving ahead, particularly come springtime, it very much feels like things are going to, I don't want to say get better fast. And frankly, COVID's never going to ever completely be eradicated. I mean, maybe it's sort of like the chicken pox or something, right? Where you just simply have to have a vaccine for it because there's always going to be some strain of it around. But definitely it feels like there's sort of a return to something that we view as more normal like, or certainly something that we can, wrap our heads around, feel better about. So that's where that looks like. There's still stuff that's going to come out, okay? And frankly, Trudeau has a lot of people who don't like him. And they're going to continue to try to muddy the name and dig up dirt. But I have to tell you, it feels as if this is a lot of much to do about nothing. I'm thinking about the charity scandal thing. It really feels as if this is more about blowing up minor things and trying to make it a really, really big deal. But you know what? This is the reality, is unless you're really angry with, the federal government, for the most part, you don't care. I mean, I'm sorry, but you don't. You're getting your vaccinations for free. There's all kinds of money that has been sent out to help people, get through these difficult times. So, let's not kind of pick on the government that did that for us, because we know what a conservative government does, right? I mean, the old adage, right? Liberals spend and conservatives cut. So there you kind of have that. But it definitely feels like there's going to be some new beginnings. There's going to be a fresher start. So this is like a really, really good news reading for Canada. And ultimately, we're going to come out of this in a place where, even though some percentage of the population is not going to praise the governments, whether that is provincial or federal, but it feels as if we're going to move through this period into a period of relative stability as we move into the spring and summer. I also want to say, because I'm getting this energetically, that Rob Ford he's in Ontario, and I believe that Ontario is the only province this year in 2022 that is holding a provincial election for premier. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. It really feels as if he's going to have a hard time holding on to that seat. People, frankly, are looking elsewhere. They're just looking for something new. They're kind of tired of having this guy running the province who doesn't seem to be able to get this thing under control, and seems to be spending a lot of time kind of trying to catch up. Like he's always behind the curve, if you will. And that ultimately is not going to serve him well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that ends up being a loss for him. And it wouldn't surprise me if the person who comes in just has a better, like I'm getting very, somebody who can really communicate well, somebody who can get a message across really well. And in some ways that's going to make Ford look even, I think, a little bit more pathetic, I guess. Sorry. Anybody's in Ontario out there listening and likes the guy, I apologize. I just tell you what I see. Okay, so overall, it feels like certainly the next 6 months of Canada, you're going to see some steady improvement. Yep, there's going to be financial hits. There's probably going to be an adjustment in the prime rate. But, it feels as if overall the country is going to continue to be able to move forward in a way that allows for sort of the growth that was, frankly, behind the whole federal government's plan of sort of dumping all this money into the system to keep things moving along. And they certainly have done that. All right, let's take a look at the United States. I will be doing another reading that is going to be coming out on Friday like normal. And I'm going to be focusing on the Trump family and, what's going on with all of the lawsuits, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully this particular reading will at least not focus too much on them, since I will give them their due in the next reading. All right, so let's take a look, shall we, at 2020 for the United States. Are we going to see, what trends are we going to see? Okay, energetically, I'm just getting some insight. They're saying that there's going to continue to be rather significant weather disturbances, and this is not something I typically talk about. I don't do weather predictions, as it were, but I am being told that there's going to be a few really significant environmental things that happen. So whether that is, forest fires, whether that's drought or flooding or, hurricanes. And I'm not specifically getting, I think there's going to be, it feels like there's going to be a significant one in Canada. And for some reason, I'm kind of feeling like the center of Canada, like Saskatchewan, Manitoba area, but I'm not getting any clarity. I'm sorry. And I see that there's going to be a couple sort of significant hits that the United States is going to take, but I don't see a lot of volume as much as I see, when disaster strikes, it's going to be kind of big. Oh, and this is interesting. So I'm being given a sort of a picture of Russia, and I'm not being told anything, but they're saying there's actually going to be a couple of things that happen in Russia. Now, one of the things, of course, that's a huge concern, of course, is that permafrost that's melting in Siberia, right? I mean, come on, that stuff has been under ice for millions upon millions upon millions and millions and millions of years, and now it's melting, and God only knows what's going to be released into the environment from that. So that apparently is a concern. And frankly, because it's Russia, you're not going to get that information. It's going to take a long time for us to hear about it, and then it's only going to be piecemeal, et cetera, et cetera. But so there is that. Okay, let's focus again, sorry, on the United States. My little brain is all over the map today. Okay, hang on here. I'm just going to have a quick sip, of my hot chocolate. That is liberally spiced with chocolate cherry flavored Baileys. Here we go. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's lovely on a cold winter day. 2022 U.S. projections, 2022 U.S. projections, 2022 U.S. projections. Okay, that's a really good way to start. You've got the Empress here. You've got the Nine of Wands. You have the Two of Cups, and you have the World. Okay, this is actually, I got to tell you, I think maybe more optimistic than, frankly, I was sort of expecting. Okay, so the Empress is talking about growth. So you can take this as, simply growth overall within the country. It feels again like there are going to be, how do I want to say this? It feels as if people are going to finally start feeling a little bit optimistic, because they're going to see that as things improve, they just, broadly speaking, are getting better. there is a lot of stuff that is still to come out, and this by no means is sort of like a get out of jail free card. It's not a completely wipe the slate and let's just pretend whatever happened before didn't happen. It's not that, but it is a sense of more information coming out that could be damaging or harmful to some. But that in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, because it could create a situation where some of them like sort of get purged because of reckless behavior that frankly not only endangered their own political careers, but far more important, endangered the country. So there's going to be information that comes out. I suspect this has a lot to do with the 1-6 committee investigation. But you know what? I think that's necessarily not a bad thing. Generally speaking, you have this growth. You have partnerships here. And they're talking about sort of energetically a couple of different kinds of partnerships. They're talking about partnerships with other countries. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Canada is not one of them, because of course we are a big, huge trading partner, and we're like neighbors. But it definitely feels like some stuff is going to end up getting that feels sort of so this is coming into my mind. I don't know if this is specifically what this is about, but I'll put it out there. I know that one of the things that Biden is wanting to accomplish in the Build Back Better is he wants to give like really big incentives for people to invest in electric cars. And there's negotiations going on back and forth, and Biden wants everything built in America, which is, he wants to get his manufacturing back up. That's valid. But there's these rather tense, I guess, negotiations going on between the United States and Canada, because by doing what they're doing, it's sort of putting the Canadian government in a place where they also have to invest the money to offer those kinds of incentives. And there is concern because there's so much cross-border stuff that goes on just with building a vehicle. But it feels as if those kinds of sort of niggly details are going to end up working out in a way that benefit both countries. I'm also getting energetically the feeling that you may actually start having a few states that have been very resistant over time start to get a little bit more on board with the federal agenda. And listen, I'm not saying that red states are going to start flying, Biden banners and singing his praises, but it does feel like some of them are going to fall into line maybe a little bit more than anticipated. And again, this would not surprise me if this has something to do with some of the natural disasters. I mean, Kentucky is red from what I understand, although I always think of Kentucky as green. And I gotta say, the people I've met from Kentucky over this channel have been amazing people. I digress. But they certainly didn't hesitate to run to the federal government for help after those horrendous tornadoes. Okay? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying, or what I'm feeling, is that because the federal government helps these people, they don't say, well, you didn't vote for me, you didn't vote blue, I'm not going to deal with you, which is pretty much, what who said. It feels like there is slowly but surely pockets or areas where there is at least a little bit more bipartisan energy. And whether that is just the day-to-day, everyday, guy on the street, woman on the street who is like, no, wait a minute, you know what? My house got blew up and went, 75 miles down the road. They stepped in to help, and maybe we should at least listen to what the guy has to say once in a while. So there's that kind of energy too. So it feels like there's just a little bit more coming together. It also feels, I really like the World card here, I have to tell you, because it feels as if a lot of the stuff that you have been dealing with is coming to a close so that a new chapter can begin. And, there's been so much heartache and so much sadness in the United States. And in some ways, the citizens of the country itself have just felt sort of like they're being held hostage, right? I mean, they're being held hostage by a ridiculous kind of political maneuvering and energy that's going on. They've been held hostage by the fact that there is a significant portion of people of the United States, some 25% or so, who are still not vaccinated. Again, today I saw something that came out that said that something like 31% of Americans believe that there are times when violence against the government is necessary. That's a scary number, people. That really is a scary number. Although I actually think there's 25 to 30% of people in the United States who think I live in an igloo. So, maybe it's not that outrageous. I don't know. But it feels as if some of those restrictions are going to start relaxing. And again, this isn't about one thing. It is a general sort of feeling in the air, if you will. There is an energy of growth. There is an energy of new beginnings. And I have to tell you, I have to say, it really does feel like some of those big employers who, really like to take advantage of their employees are going to have to turn a bit of a new leaf. And I see some of those companies sort of stepping up to the plate, and there's going to be, wage increases. There's going to be additional benefits because, frankly, one of the things that COVID did around the world is it really caused people to stop and evaluate if the life they were living was actually the life they wanted to live. And for a lot of people, it wasn't. And so you had this energy of people, transitioning into new careers, going back to school, getting certifications, whatever it is. But there's an energy of that wasn't really working. And you know what? I'm not all that anxious to go back to what wasn't working. I think we need to go forward and find something that is a little bit more fair, a little bit more generous, so that people can, take that step forward. It was very sad to see the number of children that were lifted out of poverty with the COVID support that was sent out by the government, and the number of kids that are going to fall back into poverty when that stops, if something else isn't kind of put into place and moves forward. So there's that. Okay. All right. So a couple of things. There are two pieces of sort of legislation right now, I guess, that, it's really, really important get through and get to Biden's desk. One is some variation of Build Back Better. It looks like Manson is going to hang in there a little bit, but it feels very much as if something's going to come out, or there's going to be a way that somehow comes clear, and that is actually going to be able to move forward. Some variation of the Build Back Better. I also want to say, speaking of that kind of legislation, voting rights, again, this is going to move forward, and it's going to some degree, put a bit of a kibosh on some of the real crazy stuff that's going on in particularly red states, who are terrified that they're not going to be able to win the next election, despite their bravado, despite everybody saying that the Democrats are going to lose a bunch of seats, because that's historically what happens. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't see that happening. I see the Senate picking up seats and becoming just a bit stronger majority, and the House, same thing. I see the House actually recovering some seats, because they lost actually quite a few in the last election. So it feels as if they're going to be able to move things forward. This is one of those cases where you have to slow down, and you have to kind of appreciate exactly how screwed up the political system in the United States has become, because it has become so hyper partisan. And it's going to take some work to get get that attitude and that mindset sort of shifted and moving forward. But I got to tell you, it really does look like that's what's going to happen. You've come through a time of great worry, of great stress, a lot of confusion. And it simply feels as if that is going to start correcting itself. There's going to be laws that are put in place. There are going to be just overall, there's going to be a lot, even though it doesn't feel like it right now, and even though right now it feels like somebody has had their damn foot on the brake pedal, but there is going to be stuff put into place that brings a stop to some of the stuff that he enacted and some of the stuff that the Republicans have enacted. This, of course, is, that former guy, that the Republicans have enacted to try to, one, appease him, or two, just hang on to their political shirts. So it definitely feels like energetically, there's going to be some really positive growth. And yeah, some things are going to have to get broken down. But man, they're also going to start rebuilding, and they're going to, come back together in a way that is, beneficial, and that lifts the country, as opposed to this sort of continual, sort of dragging it down thing that's been going on. Okay, so thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you so much for your comments, the subscriptions, the likes. All of it is brilliant, and I'm so grateful for it. I do ask you that every once in a while you go into, your system and just double check that you are still subscribed, and double check that you are still signed up to get your notifications. Because every once in a while, things just really fluctuate, and all of a sudden I'll lose a whole bunch of subscribers, and then the next week I gain a whole bunch of them. So stuff is in flux. I don't know why. I'm not going to start second guessing what, that big company does. But just, double check, take a moment and just double check that you continue to be subscribed and being notified, not only to me, but to all of, your favorite readers. So what I get energetically from today's reading is this. We got through the worst of it. It's going to be a bit bumpy for a couple more months, but by the spring, it very much feels like we're going to be able to feel some real growth and some real optimism. And that's a terrific thing. Okay? Until next time, take care, be well. We'll see you really soon. And happy New Year. May it be abundant, may it be prosperous, may it be healthy, and may it be whole. Bye-bye.